Ward Bond was one of Hollywood's most iconic yet underrated actors. His towering presence and reliable performances in over 200 films made him a staple of American cinema. But his off-screen life and complex friendships are just as remarkable. Today, we explore Ward Bond's fascinating life and career, and the unlikely yet lasting friendship he shared with John Wayne. Wardell Edwin Bond was born in 1903 in the small town of Benkelman, Nebraska. His early years were spent in Denver, Colorado, where a deep passion for sports, especially football, laid the foundation for his character. Growing up in a family that valued hard work and discipline, Bond quickly became known for his athletic prowess. His skill on the football field became his defining feature as he honed his abilities and looked toward a future in sports. However, it was his time at the University of Southern California, or USC, that set the stage for a turn in his destiny. It was here that he crossed paths with a fellow aspiring athlete, John Wayne, who would go on to become one of Hollywood's greatest legends. This encounter would mark the beginning of not only a lasting friendship, but a shared journey that would define both of their careers in ways neither could have predicted. At USC, the bond between the two young men formed over shared ambitions and mutual respect. Football was their common ground, but it was clear that they both had aspirations that extended far beyond the field. Wayne and Bond quickly became more than just teammates. They became friends, allies in the tough world of athletics, with both men dreaming of making it big in Hollywood. But despite their early promise in sports, Bond's future would veer into an unexpected direction. Although Bond's initial ambitions were rooted in athletics, his deepening relationship with Wayne and his exposure to the Hollywood scene in the late 1920s began to spark an interest in acting. The entertainment industry was a far cry from the football fields of USC, but Bond's athletic background would prove invaluable in shaping his future career. It wasn't long before Bond made the transition from the gridiron to the silver screen, where his imposing physical presence and commanding voice caught the attention of casting directors. His towering frame and rugged demeanor made him a natural fit for the types of roles that demanded strength and authority, characteristics that would become his hallmark as he moved further into Hollywood. The switch from sports to acting wasn't instantaneous, but it was a shift that would prove to be life-altering. Ward Bond's transformation from an athlete to a rising star in the entertainment industry started to take shape. The decision to pursue a career in acting set him on a path that would lead to an incredibly successful and long-lasting career in Hollywood. And, as fate would have it, his friendship with John Wayne would prove to be a cornerstone of that journey, with both men supporting each other in the tough and often unpredictable world of film. This period marked the beginning of an era for Ward Bond, one that would see him transition from a talented football player to one of Hollywood's most respected character actors, with his friendship with John Wayne serving as a key element in shaping his path to stardom. With his towering stature and commanding presence, Ward Bond quickly established himself as a natural fit for the world of cinema. His imposing frame and deep voice made him a standout on screen, and he soon became known for playing tough, reliable characters such as soldiers, sailors, and lawmen. His journey into acting began during the silent film era, when the industry was evolving, and Bond was right there at the crossroads of change. Early in his career, he began landing roles that showcased his strength and grit, qualities that would come to define his career. Bond's film debut came in 1929 with the movie Salute, where he found himself alongside his longtime friend, John Wayne. This film marked the beginning of a long partnership between the two men, both on screen and off. Although the role was small, it helped establish Bond as an actor to watch. Over the next few years, he would continue to work in smaller roles, but his towering presence ensured that he caught the eye of casting directors who understood the value of his rugged persona. As Hollywood evolved, so did Bond's career. The industry, shifting from silent films to talkies, created new opportunities for actors with a powerful voice and commanding presence. Bond capitalized on this change, earning roles in some of the most iconic films of the era. His reputation grew quickly as he collaborated with legendary directors such as John Ford and Frank Capra, two of the most influential filmmakers in Hollywood's golden age. Through these partnerships, Bond's talent was nurtured, and he became a staple in westerns, war films, and adventure pictures. His ability to portray strong, principled characters made him a favorite of these visionary directors. One of his most notable roles was in The Maltese Falcon, 1941, a film that would go on to become one of the greatest noir classics in cinema history. Bond played a supporting role, but his performance, as always, was delivered with authenticity and strength, complementing the darker themes of the film. Another one of his defining roles came in It's a Wonderful Life, 1946, a beloved Christmas classic where he portrayed a tough but caring character, adding emotional weight to the film's heartwarming narrative. Bond's ability to bring depth to seemingly simple roles made him a unique presence in Hollywood, and his films were often elevated by his performances. Perhaps even more so, Bond proved his versatility as an actor. He was not confined to any one genre, excelling in a variety of roles across westerns, war films, and film noir. His work in Sergeant York, 1941, helped to solidify his reputation in war films, where he played characters that embodied the very traits of loyalty, courage, and honor that he valued in real life. Meanwhile, his role in The Searchers, 1956, directed by John Ford, showcased his ability to move seamlessly between supporting roles and more prominent parts, solidifying his place as a trusted character actor who brought emotional gravitas to every scene. Bond's career was a testament to his flexibility as an actor. While he never became a matinee idol in the traditional sense, his characters, always dependable, rugged, and often deeply patriotic, resonated with audiences. Whether he was playing a sheriff in a western or a soldier in a war epic, his roles were consistently grounded in authenticity. Bond's on-screen persona of strength and reliability made him a favorite of directors, and his remarkable ability to embody characters from various walks of life ensured that his career would flourish across multiple decades. From his early days in Hollywood to becoming a familiar face in some of the most iconic films in American cinema, Ward Bond's rise to prominence was marked by hard work, determination, and a willingness to evolve with the industry. By the time the 1940s arrived, Bond was firmly established as one of Hollywood's most respected character actors, known not just for his physical presence, but for the emotional weight he brought to every role he played. Among the many relationships that shaped Ward Bond's life and career, perhaps none was as significant as his decades-long friendship with John Wayne. Their connection was forged in the early days of Hollywood, a time when the film industry was still evolving and actors were carving out their places in a new and competitive landscape. What began as a bond between two football players at USC soon blossomed into a deep and lasting friendship that would transcend the roles they played on screen, becoming one of the most enduring friendships in Hollywood history. From the very start, their shared experiences on film sets, long, grueling location shoots, and the camaraderie of late-night conversations helped cement their bond. Hollywood in the 1930s and 40s was not for the faint-hearted. The shoots were often physically demanding and the hours long. But for Bond and Wayne, these challenges became the foundation of their friendship. Whether working together on a western or a war film, they developed a shorthand, a mutual understanding of the demands of the job, and a shared sense of humor that saw them through the most trying days on set. Bond was not one to shy away from speaking his mind, and he had plenty of candid opinions about his friend, John Wayne. While their friendship was built on respect and a genuine connection, Bond was also brutally honest about the complexities of Wayne's character. In one of his most famous quotes, Bond described Wayne as the biggest jerk I ever loved. This remark encapsulates the dual nature of Wayne's personality. A man whose larger-than-life presence on screen was often at odds with the more difficult aspects of his behavior behind the scenes. John Wayne was the epitome of the American hero, a rugged, fearless cowboy who personified the virtues of courage, loyalty, and strength. On screen, he was the symbol of frontier justice, a man who stood tall in the face of adversity and always did the right thing. He was the kind of hero audiences admired, revered, and aspired to emulate. But behind the scenes, Wayne was a far more complicated figure. Bond, who saw both sides of Wayne, understood this better than anyone. Wayne could be kind, supportive, and fiercely loyal to his friends. He was known for going out of his way to help his colleagues, offering them roles in films, providing financial assistance when needed, and always being there when someone needed a friend. But, as Bond often remarked, Wayne also had a volatile temper and a tendency to steamroll over others when things didn't go his way. There were times when his confidence turned into arrogance, and his desire to maintain control over every situation led him to clash with directors, actors, and crew members. Bond witnessed these moments firsthand, and while he didn't shy away from criticizing Wayne's behavior, he always acknowledged the deeper bond between them. In their years working together, Bond saw both the good and the bad in Wayne. He knew the man behind the icon, and despite Wayne's flaws, he chose to stand by him. This friendship was not one of blind loyalty, but of a genuine understanding of each other's complexities. Bond accepted Wayne with all his contradictions, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Their relationship wasn't defined by perfection, but by the strength of their connection, which endured the ups and downs of their careers and personal lives. Through all their shared experiences, the long days on set, the late-night drinks, the conversations about life, love, and Hollywood, Bond came to understand Wayne in a way few others did. He saw the man beyond the image, recognizing the vulnerability that often lay behind Wayne's tough exterior. This duality of Wayne, the hero and the flawed man, made their friendship even more remarkable. It wasn't just a friendship based on admiration, but one built on mutual respect for each other's strengths, as well as an acknowledgement of each other's weaknesses. Even as Bond spoke candidly about the difficulties of dealing with Wayne's temper and his sometimes difficult personality, there was never any question about their loyalty to each other. Their bond was deeper than the public persona Wayne projected. It was based on years of shared history, mutual understanding, and a sense of loyalty that was unshakable, even in the face of Wayne's more troubling traits. In the end, their friendship was a testament to the complexities of human relationships. It was a bond that defied simple categorization, not just because of Wayne's fame, but because of the way they both saw each other. It was built not on the perfect image of heroism, but on the understanding of what it meant to be a flawed human being, striving for something greater in a world that wasn't always as clear-cut as the films they starred in. John Wayne's iconic status as a symbol of American strength and virtue is often overshadowed by the complexities of his personal life. While he became known as the embodiment of courage, patriotism, and the rugged individualist, those who were closest to him, like Ward Bond, understood that Wayne's real personality was far more complicated. Bond, in particular, was one of the few who didn't shy away from acknowledging Wayne's darker side, speaking candidly about the contradictions that defined his friend and colleague. Behind Wayne's famous on-screen persona, which captured the hearts of millions, lay a man full of flaws, contradictions, and insecurities. Bond, who had known him for decades, was quick to point out that Wayne's temper and arrogance often painted a different picture than the heroic, steadfast character he portrayed in films. On set, Wayne could be domineering, often asserting his control over every situation. His temperament, sometimes volatile, would flare up when things weren't going his way. Bond, who worked alongside Wayne in many of his films, witnessed firsthand how the Duke could lose his cool, belittling those who didn't meet his expectations or who questioned his authority. Despite these traits, Bond was unwavering in his loyalty to Wayne. He understood that behind the tough exterior and occasionally brash behavior was a man who was deeply insecure, sometimes hiding his vulnerability behind his arrogance. As complicated as Wayne was, Bond never let go of the bond they had forged, grounded in years of shared experiences, mutual respect, and understanding. Bond was able to accept Wayne's imperfections and see him for the whole person he was, acknowledging both the good and the bad. This unwavering loyalty, despite Wayne's flaws, was a testament to the depth of their friendship. Perhaps the most revealing aspect of Wayne's character was his infamous 1971 Playboy interview, which exposed his personal views on race, gender, and patriotism. Views that would later spark controversy and divide public opinion. In the interview, Wayne expressed views that were not only deeply conservative, but also racially insensitive. His comments about race, in particular, ignited a firestorm of criticism, especially in an era that was increasingly focused on civil rights and equality. Wayne's declarations about his belief in the superiority of certain races, his support for a rigid definition of masculinity, and his staunch patriotism revealed a man whose views were rooted in a more traditional, often outdated perspective of American values. For many, this interview marked a turning point in how Wayne was perceived, particularly by younger generations who found his views offensive. His position on social issues became a point of contention that would follow him for the remainder of his life. Yet, despite the controversy surrounding the interview, Bond never wavered in his loyalty to Wayne. In fact, Bond often defended his friend, acknowledging his flaws but also emphasizing the man behind the public image. A man he respected, even if he didn't always agree with everything he stood for. This duality, the Duke as a larger-than-life hero on screen and a flawed, sometimes difficult man off-screen, is what made John Wayne such a polarizing figure. To some, his views on race and gender, as well as his political stances, were unforgivable. To others, including Ward Bond, Wayne's contributions to American cinema, his loyalty to his friends, and the qualities of leadership he exhibited made him a man worth defending. Bond's friendship with Wayne was built on the recognition that true loyalty isn't about perfection. It's about standing by someone despite their faults, understanding that every person is shaped by their experiences, and accepting them for who they are in their entirety. Bond's ability to accept Wayne's flaws speaks volumes about their friendship. Bond didn't view his friend through the lens of public opinion or the shifting tides of social issues. Instead, he saw Wayne as a man who, for all his imperfections, had qualities that were worth admiring. Their friendship, based on mutual respect and decades of shared history, allowed Bond to see the full picture of Wayne. Not just the hero, but the man who struggled with his own insecurities and, at times, misjudged his place in a changing world. While Ward Bond's professional life was filled with triumphs and accolades, his personal life was equally complex and captivating, albeit often overshadowed by his prolific career. Beneath the surface of the tough, dependable characters he portrayed on screen was a man whose personal relationships offered a different, more introspective side of his character. His two marriages, along with his quiet, more private relationship with his second wife, Louise Myers, marked a significant and more peaceful chapter in his life, away from the Hollywood spotlight. Bond's first marriage took place in 1936, when he wed Doris Sellers Childs. At the time, Bond was beginning to establish himself as a rising character actor in Hollywood. Sellers Childs, a private individual, was somewhat removed from the glitz and glamour of the entertainment industry, leading a life outside the public eye. Their marriage, which spanned 8 years, coincided with Bond's increasing success in Hollywood, as he became a familiar face in major films. However, like many Hollywood relationships, the pressures of his demanding career and frequent travel began to take a toll. In 1944, the couple decided to part ways, ending their marriage after years of strain. While the reasons for their divorce were never fully disclosed, it's clear that the challenges of balancing personal life with the rigorous demands of Hollywood played a significant role. Despite the end of his first marriage, Bond didn't let it define him. A decade later, in 1954, he married Louise Myers, a woman who would become his partner during one of the more stable and content periods of his life. By this time, Bond had already carved out a place for himself in television, particularly with his role as Major Seth Adams on the hit NBC series Wagon Train. Unlike his first marriage, which had occurred during a time of great professional uncertainty, his union with Louise came at a time when Bond was more established in his career and found a sense of balance between his professional commitments and personal life. Their marriage lasted until Bond's untimely death in 1960, and it was a source of stability and support during his final years. While Ward Bond was known for his strong and rugged on-screen personas, those who knew him personally would attest to his deep devotion to his family. His commitment to his wife, Louise, and the life they built together was evident even amid the constant pressures and demands of Hollywood. Bond was not simply a man of action on screen, but also a husband who took his personal relationships seriously. Despite the hectic nature of his career, he always made time for his family, understanding that their support was vital to his well-being. His second marriage to Louise represented a quieter, more settled period of his life. Their 6-year marriage was marked by mutual respect, companionship, and shared love for one another, away from the constant turmoil of the Hollywood limelight. Bond's dedication to his family, particularly to his wife, helped him navigate the challenges of fame and the emotional toll that came with his demanding work schedule. Though his career was marked by public triumphs, Bond's personal life with Louise, filled with moments of peace and stability, proved equally important in shaping who he was. His relationship with her was one of the few constants in his turbulent life, and it provided a grounding influence that allowed him to remain dedicated to his craft, while staying connected to his most cherished personal relationships. In a profession where personal lives often take a back seat to public personas, Ward Bond's dedication to his family is a testament to the balance he was able to achieve in a chaotic industry, providing a more nuanced view of the man behind the screen. Throughout his career, Ward Bond was never one to shy away from expressing his political beliefs, especially during the turbulent McCarthy era of the 1950s. Much like his close friend John Wayne, Bond was an outspoken advocate for a strong anti-communist stance. The Cold War era saw a divided America, and Hollywood was not immune to the political battles of the time. As fear of communism spread across the nation, Hollywood became a battleground, with some actors, directors, and writers coming under scrutiny for their alleged political affiliations. Bond, firmly entrenched in his conservative views, supported efforts to root out those he believed posed a threat to American ideals, including the Hollywood blacklist. Bond's alignment with the anti-communist movement was rooted in his belief in the preservation of American values and the idea that communism was a direct threat to the country's freedom and way of life. He was a dedicated member of the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals, a group that sought to protect Hollywood from what they saw as the encroachment of communist ideology. The alliance, which included other right-leaning figures like John Wayne and Gary Cooper, was committed to exposing alleged communists within the film industry and preventing them from influencing the entertainment world. This period, often referred to as the Hollywood blacklist, was marked by political fervor and fear, and it led to some of the most controversial and divisive actions in the history of the film industry. The blacklist was a product of the anti-communist paranoia that swept through the United States in the post-World War II years. Individuals in Hollywood who were suspected of having communist ties or sympathies were either blacklisted, meaning they were barred from working in the industry, or forced to testify before the House Un-American Activities Committee, UAC. The consequences were severe. Careers were ruined, lives were disrupted, and the artistic freedom that Hollywood was known for was compromised by the political climate of the era. Bond, whose political views were shaped by his conservative background, fully supported the blacklist. He believed that the Hollywood elite, particularly those with leftist or communist leanings, posed a danger to the values he held dear. In his eyes, these individuals were not just ideological opponents, but potential threats to the stability and integrity of the nation. He was a vocal supporter of the HUAC hearings and participated in efforts to name names, which led to the public blacklisting of numerous writers, directors, and actors. For Bond, this was a necessary step to protect the American way of life from what he saw as the subversive influence of communism. Hollywood in the 1950s was a hotbed of political activity, with many filmmakers and artists taking sides in the ideological struggle between democracy and communism. While some in the industry resisted the blacklist, arguing that it was an infringement on personal freedoms and artistic expression, others like Bond embraced it as a means of defending American principles. The climate was tense, and the pressure to conform to certain political ideals was immense. As a prominent actor with strong political convictions, Bond's support for the blacklist was seen as a natural extension of his public persona as a patriot and staunch defender of American values. The impact of the McCarthy era and the Hollywood blacklist reverberated through the entertainment industry for years. Careers were derailed, and many talented individuals found themselves unable to work in their chosen profession. While Bond's own career remained largely unaffected by the political turmoil, the consequences of the blacklist were far-reaching, creating a rift in Hollywood that took decades to heal. The 1950s marked a period of intense cultural and political division in America, and Hollywood was at the heart of that struggle. Bond's involvement in this chapter of Hollywood history speaks to the broader cultural and political climate of the time, where the lines between politics and entertainment were often blurred, and the stakes were high. In the end, Ward Bond's political views, particularly his support for the Hollywood blacklist, reflect a complex period in American history. While many of his actions were driven by a genuine desire to protect what he believed was the American way of life, they also contributed to one of the most divisive chapters in Hollywood's history. Bond, like many of his contemporaries, found himself on the side of the ideological battle, fighting against what he perceived as a threat to his country's values. This era, marked by suspicion and fear, left a lasting impact on Hollywood and shaped the careers of countless artists and filmmakers for years to come. Ward Bond's unexpected death in 1960 sent shockwaves through Hollywood, leaving a void in the industry that would be felt for years to come. On November 5, 1960, at the age of 57, Bond suffered a fatal heart attack while staying at a hotel in Dallas, Texas. His passing was sudden, and the news spread quickly across the entertainment world. At the time of his death, Bond was still an active and beloved figure, deeply embedded in both the film and television industries. His death marked the loss of one of Hollywood's most reliable and well-respected character actors. At the time of his passing, Bond was in the midst of a successful run on the popular NBC television series Wagon Train. His portrayal of Major Seth Adams had become one of the defining roles of his career, and the series was a major hit with audiences. Wagon Train was more than just a television show. It was a piece of Americana that captured the spirit of the West, and Bond's performance was a key element in its success. His role as the stoic, dependable leader of the wagon train provided the perfect balance to the more chaotic, action-filled moments of the show. When Bond passed away, the wagon train cast and crew were left in mourning, and the producers had to make the difficult decision to continue the series without its central figure. Bond's absence was deeply felt, both on screen and behind the scenes, as his character had been a cornerstone of the show's dynamic. The series carried on, but it was never quite the same without the presence of Bond's steady leadership. Despite his untimely death, Ward Bond's legacy continued to grow and evolve in the years that followed. His work in both film and television had left a lasting imprint on the entertainment industry, and his influence, particularly on Western cinema, was undeniable. Bond had played a pivotal role in shaping the genre, bringing his signature authenticity and rugged presence to numerous films that have since become classics. His performances in films like The Searchers, Rio Bravo, and It's a Wonderful Life were central to the success of those projects, and his impact on the genre was undeniable. Even after his death, his contributions to the Western genre continued to resonate with audiences, and he remained a cherished figure in the history of American cinema. In recognition of his achievements, Bond was posthumously honored in the years following his death. In 1960, just before his passing, he was awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, an enduring tribute to his contributions to the entertainment industry. This star, located at 6933 Hollywood Boulevard, symbolizes his lasting place in the history of Hollywood and stands as a testament to his impact on the industry. The recognition was a fitting acknowledgement of his prolific career and the mark he had left on the world of film and television. Further solidifying his legacy, Bond was inducted into the Western Performers Hall of Fame in 2001, nearly 4 decades after his death. This honor was reserved for those who had made a significant contribution to the Western genre, and it was a fitting recognition of Bond's immense influence on the films and television shows that had defined the genre. His portrayal of rugged, morally grounded characters had helped shape the very essence of the Western, and his induction into the Hall of Fame ensured that his contributions to this iconic genre would never be forgotten. Ward Bond's legacy is not just defined by the roles he played, but by the integrity and authenticity he brought to those characters. In a time when Hollywood was filled with flashy stars and glamorous figures, Bond stood apart as a man whose strength and reliability were both on screen and off. He was a constant, a reliable presence in the ever-changing landscape of Hollywood, and his untimely death left a gap that could never be filled. Yet, through his lasting influence on Western cinema, his roles in some of the most beloved films in American history, and the posthumous recognition of his contributions, Bond's legacy lives on. As Hollywood continues to evolve, the impact of Ward Bond's work remains a touchstone for those who appreciate the great tradition of American cinema, particularly in the Western genre. His death may have been sudden, but his contributions to the world of entertainment are timeless, ensuring that his place in the pantheon of Hollywood legends is secure. Even after Ward Bond's untimely passing, his deep and enduring friendship with John Wayne continued to resonate in ways that transcended death. The bond between these two men, forged in the early days of their careers, was one that went beyond Hollywood camaraderie. It was a true friendship that survived the challenges of fame, personal differences, and the inevitable passage of time. When Bond passed away in 1960, it was not only a devastating loss for his family and fans, but also for John Wayne, who had lost one of his closest friends. Wayne's tribute to Bond at his funeral was a reflection of the strength and depth of their relationship. Standing before the mourners, Wayne delivered an emotional eulogy, honoring his dear friend and acknowledging the profound impact Bond had on his life. His words were filled with both sadness and admiration, as he spoke about the loyalty and steadfastness that Bond had shown throughout their friendship. Wayne's eulogy wasn't just a public speech, it was a heartfelt expression of grief from a man who had lost someone he truly respected. To Wayne, Bond was not just a fellow actor, but a brother, someone who had stood by him through the highs and lows of their careers and personal lives. In the years that followed, Wayne would continue to honor Bond's memory in his own quiet way. One of the most symbolic gestures came in the form of a personal bequest. Wayne left Bond's widow a shotgun, a small but significant reminder of their enduring friendship. This wasn't just any shotgun, it was the same one that Wayne had accidentally fired during a hunting trip years earlier, injuring Bond in the process. The gun, which had been a symbol of a shared, albeit painful experience, became a token of the deep affection and respect Wayne had for his friend. The bequest was a perfect example of the kind of humor and affection that characterized their friendship. Even in the face of tragedy, Wayne found a way to honor their bond in a deeply personal and meaningful way. The nature of Wayne and Bond's friendship was such that it defied the usual Hollywood norms. It wasn't built on shared screen time or mutual career aspirations alone. It was founded on years of shared experiences, mutual respect, and a deep sense of loyalty. Theirs was a bond that didn't depend on external validation or the shifting tides of Hollywood's ever-changing landscape. Even as their careers evolved and the world around them changed, their friendship remained constant. They had shared countless hours on set, endured long shoots together, and navigated the ups and downs of fame, all while building a friendship that became one of the most enduring in the history of Hollywood. The strength of their bond wasn't defined by their public personas or the roles they played on screen. It was a relationship that grew out of their personal lives, built on shared values and a mutual understanding of each other's strengths and weaknesses. Their friendship had seen its fair share of challenges, including the difficult periods when Wayne's temperament could be difficult to manage. Yet, despite those moments of tension, their loyalty to one another remained unshaken. Both men understood the complexities of each other's character, and it was this understanding that ultimately made their friendship so enduring. Even in death, Ward Bond's friendship with John Wayne continued to inspire and shape Wayne's thoughts. He often spoke of Bond fondly, recalling the times they had shared together and the deep connection they had formed. In many ways, the friendship was a living testament to the enduring power of loyalty and respect, qualities that were sometimes lost in the glamour and fleeting nature of Hollywood fame. The two men may have worked in an industry known for its transience, but their bond stood the test of time. In the end, the relationship between Wayne and Bond transcended the superficial aspects of Hollywood's often fickle world. Their friendship was not contingent on career success or public approval. It was rooted in something far deeper, a sense of mutual respect and an unwavering loyalty that defied the typical Hollywood narrative. Through all the changes in their lives, both personal and professional, their bond remained a constant, one that neither time nor death could diminish. Ward Bond's life and career embody the complexities of Hollywood's golden age. His journey was one of contrasts, a man known for his tough, stoic roles on screen, yet whose off-screen life was marked by deep friendships and personal challenges. Through his iconic partnership with John Wayne, Bond's legacy goes beyond just his performances. It speaks to the enduring power of loyalty, resilience, and mutual respect. His life wasn't without its struggles, but those very struggles shaped him into a man who valued integrity and camaraderie above all else. Bond's career reminds us that Hollywood's brightest stars were often just as human as the characters they portrayed. His legacy continues to shine, not just in the films he left behind, but in the enduring example of true friendship and dedication he set for all who knew him.